The year is 2007 and we're heading down I-5. We're going to the Death Valley. We've made this a family tradition to go down to Death Valley to celebrate Halloween, and particularly at a full moon. A little bit of stubborn fog hangs in the mountain valleys as we move south and eastward toward our destination. The brilliant colors of fall decorate the roadside for us as we move south on I-5. From home, our trip will take us about 850 miles to our final destination. In spite of the drought, Mount Shasta is still capped with snow. The sun has already set by the time we see the first lights of Reno, Nevada. We'll find us a place to stay in Reno and we'll be up and ready to go at first light in the morning. The sun is just peeking over the Nevada hilltops as we head down 395 southward. We finally get out of the dreaded traffic mess of Reno at rush hour. When we finally get out in the countryside of the east slope of the Sierras, we see the surrounding landscape is all decorated with its best fall colors that nature can provide. With cattle still leisurely grazing along some of the pastures of the east slope of the Sierras, we push southward. The rows of poplar along 395 are decorated with their fiery fall colors as we push southward. A single pinyon pine struggles to grow out of the Travertine at Travertine Hot Springs. We've driven in here just to take a quick look before we head on southward. The brilliant colors of the minerals have stained the rocks here as this water runs down the peak of a little pinnacle here made of travertine and then spills into some pools that are second to none. It looks to me as if Mother Nature overdone herself here in creating this hot springs, with the little rivers of scalding hot water have carved their way down right on top of the ridge and then spill into a pool that's second to none. We're not going to take time to try out these pools since we're heading south on a mission and we have to get to our destination before Halloween. Maybe another time we can do this. A magpie sits high up perched on top of a travertine mound. We see a herd of sheep grazing in the pastures. The fall weather is absolutely fantastic now. So we decide to take advantage of that and head up to the little ghost town of Bodie. This little ghost town was one time a rich gold strike. Our small gasoline motor slowly pushes us upward till we're nearly on top of a mountain and at the site of the rich gold strike, part of the Comstock lode up here on top of the mountain at Bodie. As the road winds up the mountain, the first thing we see are a few very rustic-looking old buildings up on top of nearly the top of the mountain here. We round a corner, go down a hill, and there it is, unfolding right in front of our very eyes, the old ghost town of Bodie, which was one time such a very busy place, and now it's just all in rustic ruins. One thing for sure, we've seen enough of it that we need to see more, so we're going to pay the $3 each to go in to see the town of Bodie. I tell the woman at the window that there's only 1.5 of us instead of 2, but she still says, well, that'll be $6 then. That's not the way my math goes, but that's what she figured.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and there's your receipt.
Okay.
And welcome to Bodie.
Okay, and what is there to see here?
Oh, the town. Yeah.
And when was this town?
It started around 1860.
Oh, and it was gold?
Gold and silver, yep.
Oh, yeah. And so then how long did it last?
Well, it was a town until 1862 when it became a park.
Oh, in 1862?
Yep.
Right after the Civil War then?
Or, I'm sorry, 1962.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
I think I may have got her a little bit frustrated there, but here it is, the town of Bodie. We look over some of the giant old winches with their flat cable, which was used to pull ore from deep down within the earth. The old steam engine still stands that was used to run these giant winches to pull the ore up. There's all sorts of old drums and old ore buckets, ore carts, and giant old winches. Marge is going to try one of these old winches. I don't think she'll have much luck without firing up that old steam engine, though. An old ore cart sets here. Some giant old wheels lay here rusting away. The contraption sets here that some of the winches ran off from to pull the buckets deep down within a shaft below. Then the real good part is straight ahead of us, the old buildings. Since everything had to be shipped into here high up on the mountain, they made use of every material they had. Some of the roofs were made of old tin cans. It looks as though somebody had 'em a good old Ford car out here that sat and deteriorated here on the streets of Bodie right in front of their home. These homes weren't second class at all. They even had electricity and running water.
Looks like old tin cans were the official roofing material for here. And this old building's succumbed to the time and weather here.
A path to the bathroom is behind each one of these houses here in the old ghost town. I expect there was an old Montgomery Ward catalog setting on the seat here in each of these outhouses. Fire and the elements are responsible for the decay of all but about 5% of the homes here in Bodie. And we go to the church. This is a holy church. It looks like a woodpecker seen to that, but the bell still is in the bell tower, and you can walk up the steps of the church there. I can almost see the priest. Looks as if someone got a little carried away with the collection dish there, as I see coins scattered all over the floor. There are electric lights in this church, and the church pews are still intact here. All we need is a preacher and, of course, an organist. Some of the houses were very small, and others were quite large. Maybe this was the mine executives that lived here. Even the fences still are standing around the yards. There was everything needed in an old town like this. The old wood stove was probably a popular place in this poorly constructed house at 40 below zero and with 20 foot of snow on the ground. I'll bet it took a few good quilts to keep warm in this old spindle bed at 40 degrees below zero. This old sewing machine here surely has sewed a lot of flour sacks into clothing, and the pictures still hang on the wall. The electric meter's inside the house, and I think you had to read your own meter at that time and send it to the power company to be billed later. This house was really up to date with piped-in water, a bathtub, and a kitchen here with even some boughten chairs in it. And an extremely nice wood cook stove to cook those biscuits and gravy for breakfast of a morning before you went out to dig gold. The red barn and saddle house still stand. Across the street is the S Kane Residence on the corner of Green and Park Streets. The elements and fire have taken a big toll on Bodie. There's only 1/5 of the buildings that were once here still standing. At its heyday in 1889, this place had 10,000 people living here digging gold. People lived here till 1962, and some of their old vehicles are still here, rusting away. The back of the old saloon, the buildings have collapsed back here. Each one of the 40 saloons that were once in Bodie had a little place out back where there were some working girls. The girls would come in and work the bar stools, and then they'd take their clients out in a little building behind. This outhouse had both a men and a women's side alongside each other.
This is the Dushanbe Hotel and Saloon and Post Office in this brick building.
I wonder what the painted honeys look like that worked the bar stools in here.
The old bar is still there. It just needs a good dusting. I hope whoever dealt the cards at this table didn't cheat. If he cheated, he'd be one of the daily victims in this town. The steps up to the hotel rooms are well worn. The grinding wheel sits idle out in front of the Boone's store.
In the museum, these two old horse-drawn hearses must have seen plenty of work here with a murder every day, and then probably once in a while somebody died of natural causes too.
And what was the peak population here?
10,000.
And then what year did this start then?
Well, actually, the early hard rock mining started in 1860. went to 76, and in 1877 to 78, for 2 years, they hit their first profitable strikes. And then 79, 80, and 81, for 3 years, that was the boom years and the salad days. The salad days meaning the green money.
Right, yeah.
And then 1882 to 87, for 6 years there was a decline with a reduction in population. And 88 to 1910, for 22 years they actually developed a cyanide process which extracted the gold from the rocks.
Oh.
And then in it was 1911, 21, and 26. For 15 years, the city was losing its viability. And then in 1927 to 39, for 12 years, they had small-time tourism and mining. There was like only 100 people living in the town then.
Oh.
And then in the 40s, there was like 20 people. Then the Kanes, which owned the town, they hired a caregiver that lived here until the state parks took it over in 1962.
Oh, well, how great.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And how many saloons did you say were in the town?
65.
And
And there was houses of prostitution lined up behind the saloons.
each saloon, I noticed one of the saloons there was some ruins of where a building stood. Maybe that was it? Yeah. And then the girls just worked the guys on the saloon stools and then went out back when it was...
I don't know. Possibly. I haven't delved into it that deep. But the destructive fire was in 1932 when it burnt all that stuff down.
Oh, yeah.
Like only 5% of the town is left.
Yeah. And then the jail, there was only one jail?
Yeah, as far as I know, there was only one jail.
One jail and one church then? Yeah.
No, there was 2 churches. There was a Catholic church also.
Oh.
But I believe that burned down with the fire
Yeah.
also. They had...
You say there was a Chinatown?
Chinatown. They had about 350 Chinese.
Oh.
They did a lot of the work with the carts and oxen. They did all the hauling of the wood and food and supplies and stuff like that.
Oh.
And they had 2 opium dens also.
Oh, they did. Where are they? Can you see them?
You
Or?
can't see them. Everything just was destroyed in that fire. It was all out toward the end of town.
Oh, yeah.
There was probably the stench of alcohol in here and tobacco smoke so thick you could hardly see to kill someone in here. The old school building is still standing. 2 stories of school building. There must have been a lot of classrooms in here, and the desks are still inside it here. There must have been a lot of young miners' sons and daughters that learned their ABCs in here, and I wonder if there was ever an apple on this teacher's desk. The old mill is up behind, and at its heyday it put out $1,000 a day in pure gold. A fancy lady could even buy her a fancy dress to wear to church on Sunday. When this gas pump was in operation, you'd give the attendant $1 and tell him, fill her up. The old gaming wheel still sits here on a warped table. I guess the miners had money they had to spend. The bell atop the old fire hall told the age of all the victims that had died and been murdered, almost a daily occurrence. For the frugal ones, there was even a bank in town. The bank has since burnt, but the vault still stands. The Stuart Kerwood livery stable still stands, and the jail is in the background. I'll bet this jail was a busy place in the heyday of this old mining town. Many of old drunk and murderers alike probably spent some time in this jail. From Bodie, we steered our vehicle down a road that was so rough it would jar your eye teeth loose till we got to Mono Lake. We take the boardwalk out to look at the very unusual tufa. These tufa deposits were deposited underwater. This lake level is dropping dramatically, and so these were hot springs that came up underwater in Mono Lake. These tufa are a very interesting work of art. They're made of calcium and other minerals that a hot springs has deposited underwater. Each year, the lake level drops a dramatic amount. I hope Mono Lake doesn't go dry. There are even some little tufa islands out here, and a few ducks are swimming by in the still waters of Mono Lake.